Welcome to the Wellness for Women show, where we talk about life, weight loss and everything in between. I'm Faye Caseman, founder of the AAA Way Life and Weight Loss Programme, and I'm here to help you put together the pieces of life and weight loss for one last time. This is an episode of the Wellness for Women show, filmed live in the free Facebook group. Hello, and welcome to episode number 50 of the Wellness for Women show. And this is all about ending guilt and shame around food. So how fantastic would it be if you could relinquish guilt and shame over food? If you could stop feeling like food was the enemy and that you could trust yourself around it? And I'll go one better. How would it feel if you realised your difficulties in losing weight so far were not because you were not disciplined or not strong enough, but that you just needed to learn how to find true food and life freedom? So millions of women on the planet have a complicated relationship with food. We can simultaneously love it, as in the taste, and can feel genuine joy and satisfaction from it. However, after years of dieting and being bombarded with messages from the diet industry, we can also fear it and hate how we can feel after eating. And this usually comes down to guilt or shame, maybe when we've eaten something that we thought was off plan or not healthy or bad. So how much joy would you have if you could break out of the diet cycle? So what if you could finally find peace with food and yourself in the process? And I ultimately want to help you to get there. I want to help you to break out of the diet cycle, and the diet cycle being periods of restriction leading to overeating, which then leads to guilt and shame, which leads you back into a restrictive pattern again. And so it just goes round in a big circle. How would it be if you had food freedom instead? So coming up in today's show, I'm going to talk you through the tips that helped me find food freedom and how I was able to reduce guilt, shame and judgment. All of that I had about food and my weight loss and ultimately myself. So as usual, let me know what your takeaways are from this episode in the Wellness for Women group. Just leave a #gem plus your comments. Likewise, if you've got any questions, the group is the place to be. It's a safe place for community and support should you wish to partake in it. So quick intro from me as usual. For those who are new to my world, I am Faye Casement. I help women just like you find food and life freedom by putting together the pieces, just like a jigsaw, for lasting weight management success. So reach out to me on any of my socials if you have any queries or would like to know how I may be able to help. So a little bit more information about me. So hello, I am Faye and I was a yo-yo dieter. And I can confidently say was, as I know that I'm not going to go back to the way I was. I have been changed for good. I had for years struggled with my weight and self-esteem. I had years of failed diets and wishing I was thin under my belt. Years of shoulding all over myself as far as food was concerned. Years of judging food as good or bad, years of agonizing over whether I should or shouldn't eat something, only to then worry on the other side if I'd overeaten and that it was all going to show as a gain on the scale. I would then also have periods of time where weight loss was just too demanding and complex for me to cope with. So I would tell myself it didn't matter, how I was just destined to be larger because of my genes in my family. And this led to me having a very poor relationship with food, myself, and weight loss, and everything seeming so hard. And having a poor relationship with food can be a vicious cycle, never getting anywhere, flip-flopping from one extreme to the other. But it doesn't need to be this way. As it turns out, it doesn't have to be hard either. So today I wanted to share with you a few tips that have helped me in my journey to food freedom and a healthier relationship with food. So the first one was having an intention when eating, so eating with intent. So as I just said, there's a large portion of my life where I didn't really think about food, weight or weight loss. I just ate what I wanted, when I wanted, and let's face it, sometimes for the sake of it. And it was no wonder really that I ended up occupying a body that I didn't really want to be in, as I overate regularly and I consumed more than my body physically needed at the end of the day. But I've learned not to judge myself for that, as I didn't know any better at the time. I didn't have the tools to actually see what was going on. It just kind of happened. And it might sound crazy, or some people it might sound like an excuse, but I just didn't know how to connect the dots or how to actually identify what was going on. And it was starting to eat with and learning how to eat with intent that changed this. So not one single diet that I ever went on ever helped me to look at why I ate until my last mentor did. And this is what I offer to you now. So why and how you overeat are far more important to lasting change and food freedom than the what. It's really important. So I'm going to repeat that. Why and how you overeat is more important than what you eat. And I had so much shame over what I was eating, but really, I said, as it turns out, that wasn't the problem that needed solving. It wasn't the what. So, number 2, listen to your body's hunger and fullness cues. So part of eating with intent is focusing on or trying to eat because you physically need to, and to your physical body needs. And so I would encourage you to learn to do this by distinguishing and really working on figuring out whether you are truly physically hungry or whether you are eating, or you can even feel hunger, but for other reasons, not because your body needs that sustenance. And so you might want to check out the episode that I did on the 5 E's of eating, as I cover the reasons that we eat in that episode. And so eating with intent to satisfy our body's needs, like it was designed and built, is how I lost over 70 pounds. Once I got a handle on when, where and why I was overeating, I was able to focus on changing that. And that's when the weight started to drop, as I developed a healthier relationship with food, my life, and ultimately myself. So number 3, food is not the enemy. Stop the war with food. Food is neither good or bad, it just is. Judging food as good or bad and labelling it in this way is what tends to lead to the guilt, the shame and the anxiety that we can have around food. And it's what leads to the negativity and that unhealthy relationship that you can sometimes have. But it's okay to like and enjoy food. It is okay to like and enjoy food that may or may not be as nutritionally amazing as others. Now, scientifically, some foods are nutritionally more fitting for your body than others, but the mindset and your thoughts about food will ultimately decide and define how you show up around food. So if you think vegetables are boring, you're not going to eat them. Why would you? You think they're boring. If you think donuts are bad, you're going to feel shame if you eat them, and likely you'll try and restrict them, which perhaps will lead to cravings and binges. And this is why I fell out with a certain diet that had A and B choices due to the fact it limited my bread. And as you can tell, if you're watching on YouTube or you're watching this live in the group, I love bread from the photo that's currently on the screen. And if you want to do an exercise to see what your relationship with food is like, drop me the word freedom in the group. And so join the group and drop me the word freedom, and I'll send you a link to the new membership waitlist, as there's an awesome resource there to get you started on the way to freedom. Okay, number 4. Be mindful, especially of emotional eating. So for many of us, food has been a crutch, let's face it. It has been there for us in good times and in bad times. We have celebrated with it, passed the time with it, and used it to make us feel better when we were sad. And again, I said before, it's okay to enjoy food and to have pleasure in it. But for many of us, it's gone beyond to a place that doesn't serve us, and it has impacted our relationship with food and how we handle life's ups and downs, aka we can try and handle them with food rather than by looking at what the situation is. And so to find true food and life freedom, we have to look at what happened before we eat. And this links back to the why that you eat. And so if you remember, and if you've watched any of the other episodes or caught any of the other podcasts, at the end of the day, food and eating food is an action. before you can have an action, you need to have an emotion. Before you have an emotion, you need to have a thought about it. You physically would not be able to make your way to the fridge if you didn't have that process. And usually there's then a situation that arises before that. So if it was that you've had a bad day at work, you haven't thought about it's a bad day at work, emotionally you might feel sad, and that might be one of your coping mechanisms is to go to the fridge. So again, it's not the food that was the problem. It wasn't the fact that the food existed or that you don't have willpower or anything like that. There was a chain reaction that happened before you got to that point. Number 5, trust that you can trust yourself. So after years of not trusting myself around food, I had to learn to trust myself again. To trust I could make food choices and show up around food how I wanted. This actually started with giving myself permission. Absolute, unequivocal, unconditional permission to eat what I wanted without judgment or deprivation. And this is what I encourage anybody to go through my program, is about working on that first, literally planning the food that you want to eat and showing up for yourself daily to just prove to yourself that you can actually just do what you say that you are going to do. So again, taking the pressure off you by not looking at the what and just getting used to being able to eat that food without judgment and without the drama that can go around it. Hence why I want us to ditch the diet drama. And it was a huge help with my cravings and urges. You may be surprised how you can feel once you give yourself that true permission, and that the desire sometimes for the foods that you perhaps would have classed as off limits can diminish quite significantly. And again, the whole premise of what I teach is that to find more joy. We don't have to, we don't want to be miserable if you're working on a weight loss journey or if you're just looking to maintain your weight. Number 6, talking to others. So the thing about shame and guilt is that we can feel so shameful and so guilty that we keep it locked inside us and we let it eat away at us. And what does this do? It makes us feel sad. What have we typically done when we feel sad? Eaten. And so the vicious circle continues. And so talking to others, realizing you're not alone, that others do the same, have done the same, are working on the same, is bloody powerful, okay? And we all have a tendency to think that it's only us. Everyone else has it together, and get into the what's wrong with me's kind of thoughts. But there's nothing wrong with you or me. We are perfectly imperfect just the way we are. Does that sometimes feel less than stellar? 100%. But a problem shared truly is a problem halved. So use the power of others to move you forward. A little roundup. So food freedom and releasing guilt and judgment is possible if you want it. The tips I've shared today will help you get started on your journey. Will you be, or do you have to be perfect? Absolutely not. So just for today, for example, I was having a difficult day at work. I felt sad about it. I ended up eating a load of biscuits. And this was an overeat. I wasn't hungry. It was pure emotional eating. I was trying to make myself feel better. Did the biscuits really solve my upset? Nope, not at all. If anything, actually, I then felt physically sick. So that was not a great plan. But in the same breath, I didn't judge myself for the overeat. These things will happen. But the key is that I don't then go, oh, Jeff it, I've blown it, and then go and throw myself in under the bus even further. I just recognize it for what it is. It was an overeat. I let my emotions get the better of me, and I can still keep figuring it out. And I recognize that, I say, what the real issue is not the biscuits. I think as dieters, and I'm hoping ex-dieters for all of you, it would have been the biscuits. I can't eat biscuits. I can't trust myself around the biscuits. It wasn't the biscuits. It was the bad day. And it was actually my thoughts about the fact that I was having a bad day that led to me feeling the emotion that I did, that then led to me wearing that normal groove to the biscuit tin. And so remember, again, that eating is an action. We have to have an emotion before we can do an action. We have to have a thought before the emotion. And usually there is a situation or trigger to that. But just know that you can keep working on it, you can keep figuring it out, and you can have a better relationship with food and yourself and weight management if you desire for long-term success. And you don't have to feel deprived, restricted or miserable in the process. Right, that's it, folks. So don't forget to pop into the Wellness for Women group regularly. As a community, we can learn from each other, we can discuss what comes up and give each other support. And obviously, if you want to know more about how you can actually work with me personally, just drop me a message and we will have a chit chat. See you next week. Thanks for listening, and don't forget, if you want to boost your life and weight loss the AAA way, check out the relevant links for today's show in the description. Speak soon.